Conference live and in its entirety. That is at noon. Tough one to swallow yesterday. D-Mase, Willy D joins us from Chicago.
Willie D, you in a cold, windy city. Have fun, enjoy. Man, don't freeze your tail off. But, yesterday, I want to know if you two saw this too. And I'm not even talking about during the game. After the game, you saw Tajay Spears. You saw several guys just sitting on the bench. Like, wow. Like, it was, and you said the right word, Caroline, demoralizing.
Yeah.
It was as if they lost the AFC Championship game, the way some of those guys were sitting on the bench. Like,
because they did so much right.
Yes,
they had
did.
So many opportunities to win that game.
Yes, for offensively, they had their bad moments, but for the most part, they played a good offensive game. Defensively, they did what they need to do in the run game. They stopped Indianapolis from running the football the way they did the first time. Now, Indianapolis kept at it, which is good. They kept at it just so they wouldn't come one-dimensional. But you do all that from an offensive standpoint, from a defensive standpoint, and then you have your special teams just basically give the game to the Indianapolis Colts because of miscues. That play, the second, and let me know if you guys remember this play. This is the same play that New England ran games ago. I think it was like 4 or 5 weeks ago. And I remember saying, watch somebody else try to do that, or the NFL may try to outlaw that. And lo and behold, the Indianapolis Colts did it. I don't know if that was their first time doing it.
The block punt?
Yeah, the block punt. Mm-hmm. I don't know if because they brought that guy in at the last minute, and he ran, and nobody accounted for him.
Was it the first one or the second?
It was the second one. Nobody accounted for him.
And he came in quick.
He came in fast and hard and quick, and no one accounted for him. So to me, is that something that Indianapolis has shown before? Because if it is, then Ackerman, you need to be held reliable for that, because you should have made sure that you told your special teams guys, hey, listen, be aware from that guy motioning down at the last second and then trying to rush the punter. If that did occur and he did not explain that to him, then shame on Ackerman. But it's shame on that special teams core, period. They had some okay returns, but they gave up a big return. And then you give up 2 block punts back to back. That's something that
Has that ever happened in the history of the NFL?
And I was trying to figure that out. I was looking it up. I couldn't find it. But I've never seen on consecutive special teams plays the punt get blocked. Mm-hmm. That is just an embarrassment. It truly is an embarrassment. So I felt Tajay Spears sitting on the sideline. I felt those other guys sitting on the sideline like, man, we did all that we possibly could. It wasn't perfect, but we did what we needed to do to win. And the one unit messed it all up for us. You can blame it. You can say, yeah, there are plays here and there, but for the most part, those 2 plays is what lost the Tennessee Titans that game.
Yeah, I think there's you definitely can make that case. I also think the illegal contact, which I think the officials have struggled with all season long around the league. As Mike Vrabel pointed out, it's a strange time to call that for the first time in the game against a physical wide receiver, and they get a sack on the play. So in theory, that might have been the game-winning play, a sack. And instead, it's new life for the Colts. They go down and score. So there was a lot of it's your typical razor's edge game in the NFL. I guess I have a little more mixed feelings. I want them, especially with Will Levis, to experience some success. But in a lot of ways, the next best thing is this scenario where you do a lot of good things. You're still playing hard. You're playing for each other. But you fall just short in a game you probably should have won. And at the end of the day, you're going to pick higher because of it. Like if they're 5-7, that puts them with a group of teams where, that's about 5 slots that you're looking at. And instead you're getting down with the top 10 kind of stuff, which I think this team just desperately needs a little bit higher pick to be able to position themselves to either get a high first-round pick or to parlay that into a few more picks. So I'll never say I want a team to lose. But I've heard some scouts and people like that say, yeah, I mean, I kind of hope they lose. I want to pick high. I'm not that far, but the next best thing is a loss like this because I love how they competed. I love how Levis is progressing, but I kind of think at this point they're not going to make it anyway. So I can live with the loss as long as they're playing hard like that.
And there's two different ways to look at it of, look, hey, a loss, there is the teeniest, tiniest silver lining of a better draft pick, but it's still the idea of repeated mistakes. It's the same consistent theme of shooting yourself in the foot, and special teams shot the Titans in the foot yesterday. I mean, the first block punt, that's bad enough to have a block punt. And then the second one happens, like we said earlier. I don't know how many times in the history of the NFL you get 2 punts blocked, much less in back-to-back punts, and it gets your punter injured. And I don't know if y'all have noticed, but this team punts a lot. Punter's pretty important for this team. So now your punter is hurt. So the 2 block punts, the first one, they're able to find the end zone. Amani Hooker at least makes a great play and is able to take the 2-point conversion back the other way. You at least get 2 points on the board there. He gave up a touchdown on that block punt. The second block punt that got Ryan Stonehouse killed, they are able to score a field goal. So that's 6 points that you then got 2 points back on. So that's 4 points from the special teams, and then 3 points from special teams when they're able to kick a field goal. So that's 7 special teams points. You had the 1 point that you missed on that touchdown, was it in the third quarter, fourth quarter, whenever that was, in the second half, that D-Hop touchdown. You missed the extra point because something goes wonky with the hold. And my first instinct...
What's wrong with the hold?
The laces, they were to the...
That's what I don't know, is what happened with the hold.
When they showed it again, and listen, I never kicked the football, well, at least not in a game.
Have you ever held?
I've held before, but not in the actual game.
Yeah.
But I've held before. But there is a thing to having the laces the right direction, and it seemed like
laces out?
that when Ryan caught the ball, the laces were not quite the way that they should have been because they kept showing it over and then when it kicked. Ryan Tannehill stood up and basically said, "My fault." He hit his chest, was like, "My bad, that's me," because he knew the ball wasn't placed exactly the way it should have. But hey, you get paid to make kicks, and a lot of it will go on fault. No one will look at it being a bad hold. Ryan Tannehill knows it was a bad hold. I know it was a bad hold. But I think those outside that are just looking at the missed field goal, they're looking at Folk and saying he missed the field goal. And
I think I have to chalk it up to the hold, and maybe that's not fair because Nick Folk has been so money, and he's missed 1 field goal all season long, and he kicks a lot of field goals. That, for it to go so wide left, something had to be different, especially considering that there was a new holder in there. So you could say, well, it's not Ackerman's fault that the hold was off. It's not Ackerman's fault that Tannehill was in there having to hold. Well, it is Ackerman's fault that he got Ryan Stonehouse blown up after they didn't make any adjustments, that he didn't give the special, and that's making me make an assumption that he didn't give that special teams unit a heads up. And also they talked about how they've practiced that before, where Tannehill has held in practice before, but were they not doing that in the sidelines beforehand after Ryan Stonehouse did get hurt? Was Craig Ackerman not on the sideline saying, hey, I need you to practice? I know we've done this at practice before, but now, Tannehill, you're going to have to hold because it's coming down to we're critical points here, where points are incredibly critical, whether it's a field goal, whether it's an extra point. That extra point would have won them the game. Yeah. So are they not communicating that on the sidelines? Were they not practicing the hold? Because I saw them practice after they missed the extra point. But at that point, it's too late. You already missed the extra point.
But you don't go into a game thinking that the punter is going to get hurt. That's just one where who was it? The Texans had the game where the running back had to come in and be the kicker. I mean, that's sometimes crazy stuff happens. You prepare for emergencies, but there's only so much you could do. That's not the worst hold I've ever seen. It was there. You try to make the kick, but I go back to this. Look, it was a nightmare on special teams. That's what lost in the game.
And you gave up 2 big returns.
Yeah,
but I may be going against the grain here, but I don't care about that as much as I'm not as worried as whether they win the game or not as what kind of progress is Levis making? What kind of player do you have in Sharp? Are you starting to get Chigo Okonkwo back in the flow a little bit? Are you going to get Tajay Spears? Why do I always do that?
You're not alone, Willy. It's okay.
Yeah. Also, can they get Burks back on the field and have him be something before the season ends? These are the questions. These are the only questions for the Titans. Whether they beat the Colts, who are the luckiest team in the league right now, I think they're not very good. But they've won 4 in a row somehow. They've got the easiest schedule in the league, and they're making it work. And credit to them, right? They've got that. They got the mojo right now, and they might keep having it. If you look at their schedule, they get to play Joe Burrow, or a Joe Burrow-less Bengals team. They might end up in the playoffs. They're not much better than the Titans, but the Titans aren't going to make the playoffs this year. So to me, I'm looking at the big picture way more than did they have a bunch of screw-ups on special teams. That's me.
They don't play the Bengals.
I'm not sure. Well, they already played the Bengals. Yeah, they're already playing the Bengals.
All right, look at the remaining schedule for the Colts.
You're talking about the Colts.
I'm sorry, you're talking about the Titans.
I thought you were talking about the Titans.
Sorry, my bad.
No, I'm talking about the Colts.
Oh, okay.
In their remaining schedule.
Okay.
They're 7-5. And they're terrible. The Colts aren't any good.
I'm not going to say the Colts are a bad
team.
They're
overachieving.
I'm not going to say the Colts are a bad team. They're a better team all around than the Tennessee Titans. They were missing
they're but why?
They were missing their best player.
They're executing.
But they're missing their best player in Jonathan Taylor. So had Jonathan Taylor been on the field, what would that game have looked like? I look at this game from this standpoint. Yeah, I'm not too concerned about the wins and losses, but the way you played your ass off offensively and defensively, that's a game you deserve to win. Mm-hmm. That's a game that you didn't deserve for the special teams unit to be a cluster, a complete cluster. You didn't deserve that as a team. So I understand what you're saying about the wins and losses, Willie, because ultimately the big picture is they're not making the playoffs. Yeah. But I think in that situation, they deserve to win that game. And they didn't. And why? We can say, the pass interference, and I get that part. But they would have never been even in that position had they not given up the two block punts. It wouldn't even came down to a sack and then a questionable pass interference had they not gave up both of those block punts. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm realizing in regards to this game. This game. So I agree with you that in the big picture, this it's neither here nor there in regards to them winning. But in the micro, it's like, listen, they deserve to win this game. They did everything from an offensive and defensive standpoint for the most part to win that game, and it was the special teams unit that let them down. We can't let them off the hook.
So in a way, and look, I know D-Mase, you're a competitor, and if I was in that locker room, I'd say the same thing you're saying right there. I'd feel that pain. But from the outside, from on draft day, they will be glad that they lost this game, and they will have the good parts that we're talking about. They're still competing. Look, the next 3 games for the Colts are Bengals, Steelers, Falcons. They could win 2 out of those 3. And I don't think there's a huge difference. Like you're pointing out, the Titans arguably should have beaten the Colts, and the Colts could end up winning 10 games and sneaking into the playoffs. But it shows you how much of there's very little difference in this league between, 3 or 4 games in the standings. That's crazy how that works. But the Titans desperately need an influx of talent. They need to replenish, and they've got some guys who are aging that aren't going to be part of the future anyway. So I'm trying to look at the benefit of a loss like that, and I think there's some benefits. Like if they get run out of the building 40-0, then that's not a good sign. I don't care how you slice it. That's like tanking. But to be competitive and fall just short, there is a positive there.
And I think another thing to look at too is the accountability in losses. Is looking at it from a 360-foot view, looking at it from a 2 to 3 year plan. Yeah, Willie, you're right that winning games isn't necessarily the number one priority. It's getting better for next season. But looking at this game through a vacuum, they did there were some more things that they could have done defensively. I mean, Sean Murphy bunting between the illegal contact and just letting Alec Pierce just absolutely blow by him in overtime. You could argue that cost you the game. You could argue that a few missed balls from Will Levis or a couple of drops here and there, whether it was from Nick Westbrook-Akine or Chris Moore in the end zone, that you could have done more offensively. But if you would have told me that this Titans team rushed for over, 150 yards? Was it 170 something on the day? That could have been enough to beat the Colts. That they did just enough. There wasn't everything. They didn't do everything right, but they did enough offensively and defensively to win that game. But what ultimately was the straw that broke the camel's back for this Titans team was special teams. That special teams cost you this game. Where's the accountability? Where is the accountability for Craig Aukerman to be maybe, I don't know, we can fact check it, maybe the first team in the NFL history to get 2 punts blocked on back-to-back punts? Where is the accountability there to say, look, no, I understand that maybe right now, since the playoffs are gone, maybe right now we are looking at a better draft pick. But when you're looking at trying to win football games, especially important football games, games at home, games against divisional opponents, avoiding being swept by your divisional opponent in the Indianapolis Colts, when the special teams are that much of a disaster, where is the accountability there? Especially when, Willie, looking at it through the scope that you're looking at it, building for the future, making special teams better. And will these special teams be better with a different special teams coach when coaches need to be held accountable?
Well, I mean, we will find out, what Vrabel is thinking later on, in the bit here, because obviously I'm sure that will be, it should be the first question asked by Teresa. She gets to ask the first question, so that should be the first question asked because, again, I understand the Murphy bunting, pass interference, non-pass interference. But you're not to that point. You don't even get there if you don't give up 2 back-to-back block punts. Not even the first one. Okay, take the first one out. But
first
the
one's
second,
bad enough, but the second,
you gave up a second one. There's no other questions that needs to be asked other than that one question first. Why and how? And how do you get it fixed? Because that's truly that's embarrassing. It really is embarrassing, and they got to find a way to allow that to never happen again.
Are those the first 2 block punts of the season?
Yeah. Did they have one? That's the first 2? That's the first 2 blocks.
When is the last time they had a punt blocked before yesterday?
Oh man, I can't.
I don't know.
Don't quote me on it, but I believe it was 2018, Willie. Don't quote me on it. I'll double check.
Okay. So this isn't a chronic thing. This is something that showed up in a bad time. So I'm just trying to be fair here as we carve up Aukerman, because he's going to get carved up today when you have a game like that. That's how the business.
So.
Yeah, but if you're just going to go at block punts, I don't think this is a team that's had punting problems. They have one of the best punting games in the league over the last, 10 years, maybe 20 years, long before Aukerman was the head coach. And you have, something freakish like that happen. Your punter gets hurt. There's a chain reaction. That affects the extra point. So I don't think they have great special teams, but it was a disaster yesterday, and I'm sure there's going to be accountability. But again, big picture, they've got a lot more. They've got a lot bigger problems than their special teams.
Well,
they're not losing. They're not losing in general because of special teams. I think they lost yesterday because of special teams.
Well, I understand there are bigger problems, but those are the problems that we know nothing. We knew those problems 5 weeks ago, probably even longer than that. This one has been, and it's not just the punt protection team. I think it's other than, Stonehouse punting or Nick Folk, being as good as he has been this season.
Yeah.
It's just little things that show up with, you give up a big returns.
Which they do consistently.
Exactly.
That happens a lot.
Absolutely. And then you don't get enough big returns. And then you have, the block punts. Things like that, after a while, they just build up. And I know that, hey, listen, it hasn't been a complete debacle, but when you have a season that's going the way it's going and you finally put yourself in a position to win a division game at home in the one area that you need to just go out and do your job. Just do your job.
You don't even need special teams to be a positive.
Exactly. You just need not it be a negative.
Don't make it a problem.
And it was a problem yesterday. It was a huge problem yesterday, from the 2 block punts to the missed field goal. Now, those things are, I get it. You know, you can't blame the whole season on that. But when there's constant questions about the special teams in certain areas, and then that happens, yeah, there needs to be some accountability held.
Okay, let me give you one more stat again as I try to be. I'm just trying to balance the discussion. It is easy to pile on the special teams today, of all days, right? And I'm saying they deserve it after yesterday. But
didn't they have a block punt in the Saints game? Wasn't there a block punt in the Saints game? First game of the season? Or a muff punt or something?
There was a muffed punt definitely in London. There may have been another muffed punt.
Saints game, it was Hooker on the opening kickoff. Remember, he punched it out and they got the ball back. I think that's what you're thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But that was a positive.
That was a positive.
Play.
Yeah, positive play.
I will give you, again, the Aaron shots. It's not the end-all, be-all, but it is a measuring system that I look at every year. The special teams value over average for the entirety of special teams, not punts blocked, not field goals, but everything put together. Coverage, everything like that. Going into the game, now I'm guessing this is going to drop after yesterday, right? Fair to say it should drop, but they were 9th in the NFL in overall special teams. They had above average special teams, ranking 9th in the league based on that metric system. Now, you might look at another site and it's 15, whatever, but I don't think the special teams this year has been bad overall.
But if you're looking at the totality of special teams, how much of that ranking is fueled by Nick Folk just being absolutely money, which I don't know how much I can really put on Craig Aukerman. It really comes down to, Nick Folk's been in the league for close to 20 years, and he's been doing what he's doing. And how much of that is Ryan Stonehouse's absolute cannon of a leg? I don't know how much of that I can attribute to Craig Aukerman either. So I think that metric might be Craig a little bit skewed.
I don't think it is. That's just how they measure the entire league. It's coverage as well as the punter and the kicker. That's part of it. It's kickoffs. It's kickoff coverage. It's punt return coverage. It's the punt returner. All of those things are put together for that one. So if you're not going to give Aukerman credit for Stonehouse and Folk, then you can't blame him if Folk misses an extra point.
I can blame him because of the circumstances. Because why did he miss the extra point? I'm going to say probably because of the hold. Maybe it wasn't, but I would say it's an extra point. It's something that Nick Folk has probably done a billion times in his career, and it was so wide left that it was probably because of the hold. So one, why was that a problem? After Stonehouse went down, were they practicing that on the sidelines? And then how did we get there? It's because Stonehouse was hurt. And
yesterday was a disaster.
It was a disaster.
I'm just pointing out that they were 9th in special teams heading into yesterday. So they haven't been losing because of special teams.
Let's continue the conversation coming up next, plus what Mike Vrabel had to say about Craig Aukerman and special teams. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Hey, need cash for the holidays, or you want to be credit card debt-free for the new year? Does that sound good to you? Well, here's the way you can do it through our friends at Loan Pronto. Their Express Equity line of credit. That program can get you thousands of dollars in order to address that credit card bill that's got the high interest rate. You can get that cash in as little as 5 days through your home's equity. And the Express Equity line of credit can get it to you in as little as 5 days. It's such a streamlined process. You don't even need to get your house appraised in most cases, 90% of cases. So you can get that money fast and address the needs for the new year. Get that holiday cash you need, pay off the credit cards, both. Just call Loan Pronto and get the process started. Find out more about it, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Well, I mean, it just execution on one, and I think they made a really good play and timed up the motion, and was able to get in there on the second one. First one, 4 guys overloaded, and we got to get some depth, and again from the picture, I would say that Stoney's got to be able to take it, and help us out. I don't know that to be sure. I know that we're angled off into the overload, and you can't have punts blocked and think that you're going to win games, and all the other things, and punt and give credit to the defense going out there and playing and getting stops, and ask the guys to fight at the beginning of the week, and that's exactly what they did. It was unfortunate that they just made one more play than we did.
That was Mike Vrabel on the blocked punts yesterday. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we will hear from Mike Vrabel in 30 minutes. He speaks to the media, so we'll carry his press conference live and in its entirety.
Did he just blame that on Stonehouse? Did he?
I heard him say he did kind of imply that Stonehouse took a little longer to get rid of it, I guess, is what he was saying. I heard that yesterday, too.
You has to be damn kidding me. Doesn't he talk about he not throwing people under the bus? Uh-huh. And you basically insinuated that your punter probably had a hand in the block punt happening. No, what caused it was the guys up front not blocking. Caused both of them. and then it caused your kicker, your punter, which is maybe the best punter in the National Football League. Yep. Now he's hurt. And Willie, they did have a block punt in that Saints game, that first Saints game.
So that's three punts in 2 games.
Exactly. And it had a muffed.
Muffin in London.
Exactly. So you're talking about 4 situations on special teams that has cost you points.
And not to mention all of the big returns that they have given up this year. There were 2 yesterday that they gave up.
Yes.
2 big returns that they gave up yesterday. There was that one, it was like a 30-something yard return, plus I think it was a block in the back from Kevin Rader maybe. So that put the Colts on your 55.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, you give them great field position. The Colts end up scoring on that play. So I think it was a field goal on that play. So that's another 3 points that your special teams cost you. And if it weren't for that Amani Hooker play and the 2-point conversion after that first block punt and the sack from Danico Autry and Arden Key on that second blocked punt, that's probably even more points that they gave up because that sack forced them to kick a field goal. So that's, I mean, it was at least 2 good defensive plays that bailed your special teams out and made it at least not as bad as it could have been. But that many block punts in the National Football League, I mean, it is truly unacceptable. And Mike Vrabel said right there, you can't expect to have punts blocked and expect to win football games. You're right. You can't. So what are you going to do about it? That's your job, Vrabel. What are you going to do about that?
Yeah, you can't hide Ackerman anymore. I'm not saying Ackerman is the worst special teams coach out there because I'm sure he's not. And it would be irresponsible for me to say he's the worst special teams coach out there. But somebody needs to be held accountable for what happened yesterday because this has been happening throughout the whole season in regards to the special teams. They just haven't been good enough. You've given up 4 block punts and 3 blocked and a muff. In one season, you're giving up long returns. Yeah, you've had a few yourself. Yes, your punter is outstanding. Your kicker has been, he's been rejuvenated and he's held together, your place kicking duties. But beside that, this, along with some other things, but this special teams unit has not been good. You just fired your offensive coordinator. Why? Because for years, the last 2 years prior to this year, your offense hasn't been good. So you finally got rid of your offensive coordinator. Offense looks better now under Tim Kelly. When is he going to address this special teams thing and stop sort of, pushing it to the side and making excuses? Because to me, you're doing an injustice to your team. When a player consistently does bad, he either gets benched or they cut him. But when a coach, the unit, does bad throughout the whole season in certain areas, you making excuses for the guy. He needs to be held accountable somehow, some way. So to me, this is not just a 2-block punt thing. This is something that has been happening for the last 2 or 3 seasons where this special teams just hasn't been what they should be.
I still don't think that is the number one story going forward for the team. I'm still much more looking at big picture stuff than this. I think at the end of the season, They have to evaluate the special teams, just like the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator, and they may well make a change. But I think that was clearly the reason that they lost yesterday. Big picture, I'm not as much of a, I don't pretend to know exactly why stuff like that happens. But I leave it up to Vrabel to decide at the end of the year, do they need to change the special teams coach or the this or that, get a better return. I'd love to see them get a good return here and there. It seems like every time they do, they get a penalty on it for blocking the back, something like that.
That's another thing.
I just gave you the numbers. They rank 9th in special teams going into yesterday. That's probably going to drop some. But I'm much more concerned about how's Levis doing, how is Spears doing, is Burks going to be anything? He's on the field. Can Chig take another baby step forward? Those are the things that I am looking for between now and the end of the season.
And we will be able to talk big picture a lot now, considering that the Titans are sitting at 4-8, and statistically, mathematically, out of the playoffs, and you've got Miami on Monday Night Football. You got a game against the Seahawks who look pretty good. You got 2 games against the Texans, another game against Jacksonville. None of those games look like games that the Titans are going to be able to win. But when we talk about big picture, there are a lot of things that I'm not quite sure if the Titans can be better in the offseason. I'm not quite sure if the Titans can find 4 serviceable Thank you so much. Serviceable starting offensive linemen in the offseason. I hope they do, and I hope that they try everything that they can to find 4 serviceable starting offensive linemen to supplement Peter Skoronski for next year. I don't know if that's possible, but I do want to see this team do whatever it can, do everything in their power to make this team better for next year, because there's really only so many things that you can do to be better for this year. One of those things is not hurting yourself and not shooting yourself in the foot. One of those things that has shot themselves in the foot is special teams. I always look at special teams. I said it earlier and I will reiterate it now. I don't need you to have the best special teams unit in the National Football League. Like, I don't need, punt return touchdowns every single game. I don't need you to be like some kind of Hall of Fame special teams coordinator. But what I do need is for special teams to not hurt this team. Because I look at special teams like gimmies. Easy, extra points, easy field goals. Not giving up 30, 40, 50-yard returns.
Caroline, they've almost been perfect with that. They've had a great year with punting and kicking. They've got one of the best punters in the league, and they've had
They got 2 blocked punts yesterday, Willie.
I'm talking about the punter.
And now
Ryan
he's hurt.
Stonehouse is a great punter.
And now he's hurt.
But you're acting like they've had a horrible special teams year. They haven't. They have a great punter who averages. He's got one of the best legs in the game, and their kicker has been almost perfect.
And special teams has still hurt this team, whether it's returns, whether it's penalties
no, they've
on
hurt
returns.
this team several times this season.
All season long.
But
and yesterday,
perfect.
it reared its ugly head in the most massive way possible, to the point where you can't ignore it anymore. To the point where it's not just, you give up a big return here and there. No, it was so bad yesterday that it warrants accountability.
Ninth in the league going into yesterday as a whole. You guys, let's not get carried away. It's not perfect.
I don't think we're getting carried away.
Willie, I don't think we're getting
Yesterday, it was awful. It lost them the game. But that's not been the story of the season as bad special teams. It was the story of yesterday.
Yes, but we're not getting carried away. But with a team that isn't good, you can't then do things that are going to cost you games. This isn't the first time that it has happened. They have 2 other instances where there has either been a block punt or a muff punt. The special teams unit, those are hidden yardage for this. We call those hidden yardage. Punt returns, kick returns, block punt stuff because those are things that you really don't count on, but if they happen, it's great for you, and if they don't happen or if it goes the other way, then that's bad.
Right.
Really, it's gone the other way for the Titans.
I know, and that's why I bring up the stats that they're 9th in that. So you guys are disputing that you think 9th was not going into yesterday a true indicator of their special teams as a whole.
Because I want to know how much Nick Folk accounts for that.
Yeah.
Because Nick Folk making his kicks,
balanced.
I don't think I can give credit to Craig Aukerman for that. Nick Folk's 39 years old. He's been in the league for a long time. He is who he is as a kicker.
It's not about assigning it's not trying to make the coach a hero or the kicker a hero. It's just evaluating the numbers and coming up with a ranking for the special teams as a whole.
But I'm trying to evaluate the coach. Yesterday. And I don't know if I can and how much of that ranking.
So if the coach has the 9th best special teams unit in the league, that's not bad. Now, I don't know. This would be interesting. We'll look at it this week when the rankings come out, which will be after tonight's game, and how far they drop. Because that, if it goes from 9th to 20th or 21st, which I don't know, maybe it will.
It might.
Then we look at it. Yeah, but we're still looking about one game that was a total debacle. The game in London, they had problems on special teams where Kyle Phillips, the screw up on the punt at the end of the half, that was a killer for sure. But I'm looking at it relative to the league. We have the Titans special teams under the microscope, because we're watching every play every week. We don't have the reference to be able to compare it to every other team because we don't watch their special teams as closely as we watch Titans. That's why I'm bringing these numbers to the table. I'm not trying to defend Aukerman. If they fired him today, that wouldn't be the first time a special team coach gets axed because of a game that they lost. Sometimes that happens in the league. I wouldn't sweat it, but I'm just trying to be fair.
Well, I get that part, but I think you've been talking to Vrabel, because that's an answer that Vrabel would get, and I expect that because you're Coach Willy, so you're trying to, trying to carve out
I'm
the
bringing
good
the numbers
part.
to the table.
But
I'm bringing the numbers there. It doesn't bother me. I'm glad. I told you guys that's right. I'm okay with them losing the game. I think they're better off having a higher pick myself. But
I am not okay. I'm not okay with the way they lost the game, because they deserve, by the way the offense played for majority of the game, for the way the defense played. Yeah, they gave up some situations here and there, but for the way the defense played in the special teams, all you have to do now is just don't mess anything up. Nothing at all. Make your field goals, get the punt off, don't allow returns.
Fair catch if you have to,
whatever.
every single
Just
time.
don't do anything that is going to be a negative to the team. Well, they did 3 or 4 things yesterday that was negative to the team, and it cost them a victory that they deserved to win if you base it upon what the offense and the defense did. We can actually, this is not objective, we can actually see it, that the special teams was the root of all of this. Because if you don't have the block punts, then hell, if you get the pass interference, it don't mean anything anyway, because they're down 14 points somewhere around there. So everything
I'm
with the root of it is the special teams unit.
Because of special teams. They absolutely lost yesterday because of special teams. I just want to make clear that I'm not disputing that point.
And I'm telling you, guys on that, when things like that happen, especially, it's like, man, we went out there and we played our ass off. We gave everything offensively and defensively. And then you look at the special teams unit and you like, what? This is what, y'all see what, we played like 50 downs apiece, probably more than that offensively and defensively. And y'all go out and y'all play 5 plays, 6 plays, and y'all mess up 2 of them, 2 out of the 6, which then causes us to lose the game. That doesn't sit well with players. That doesn't sit well with the offense. It doesn't sit well with the defense. They're not going to verbally outright blame anyone for it. They're going to take it as a team. But I guarantee you, they're in that locker room like, man, we did all of this, and this is what happens.
Let's get into your thoughts on this coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, Mike Vrabel at the podium, 15 minutes, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Happy Monday, everyone. I need to tell you about our partners in sports, and I'm excited about this because they're launching their new introductory promotion available to all new customers in Tennessee. It's the No Danger First Wager. When you sign up for a Zen Sports account, you will receive up to $1,000 No Danger First wager. When you place your first bet on Zen Sports, you will be reimbursed for the amount of your bet if you lose, okay? Up to $1,000. Plus, Zen Sports has launched a new VIP program for the premier bettors of Tennessee. If you think you might qualify, people, then listen up. Zen Sports is hosting a VIP game experience on December 3rd, which has already passed. So I hopefully, you join them versus the Colts game. I know it was a horrible loss. It was a heartbreaking loss. But hopefully you enjoyed yourself Sunday during the tailgating. So I know there was a bunch of drinks there for you. You got a chance to mingle with other VIPs. So hopefully you enjoyed your time, which I know you did, but the game didn't go to quite the way it was, quite the way you thought it would go. So, maybe next week when they face Miami on Monday night. But the VIP, let me get back to this. But the VIP program is by invite only. So if you feel that your Zen Sports play qualifies for a VIP consideration, please check out the program details and apply at zensports.com/VIP. No other sportsbook will offer you a premier sports betting experience with 24/7 top-tier customer support and bigger and better action than Zen Sports. So, what are you waiting for, people? Get going and download their app at zensports.com today. That Zen Sports betting just got better. Gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Let's get into some of your thoughts on the special team. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, we'll hear from Mike Vrabel in 10 minutes. We'll carry his press conference live and in its entirety. Caleb in Gallatin, Texan, says the special teams have been bad for multiple seasons. I don't always agree with Jared, but he's been saying our special team unit has sucked for years now and that Ackerman needs to be fired. This isn't something that has started happening this season. I'm on board with Jared on that take.
Okay, but where is he getting the numbers? Like, is he just listening to Jared and nodding his head? So when you say they've been bad, what numbers are you basing that on?
I think the two blocked punts yesterday would probably lend to that.
Okay, I'm granting you guys that. I've been saying that. Yesterday is yesterday. When he says they have been bad for multiple seasons, what are we talking about?
Well, 2 years. I mean, they couldn't make a field goal to save their life. A few years, other than this season,
they did have the musical chair kicker thing.
Other than this season, they
Randy Bullock was the kicker pretty regularly for the last couple years.
But they've given up. Right? I think they've given up their fair share of whether it be returns, fumbles
Muffed
on muff punt. Them before Stonehouse really learned how to, and he still it's a work in progress. But there have been things over the course of the last couple of years, Willie, where this special teams unit hasn't been as good as it should have been. Or they've been bad. They've been badder. They've been a little bit worse than what they should have been.
Too many mistakes.
Exactly.
Okay. Yes. Less than ideal. I grant you that. But again, I'm bringing up the question: how is it relative to the rest of the league? That's where I bring the numbers to the table. And look, I'm not saying that I have all the answers here. I'm just, before you pile on, we need something relative to everybody. There are other teams that struggle and have success in special teams as well.
But I don't know how much I really care about other teams.
Yeah, I don't care.
I care about
tell
this team, and these special teams aren't good enough.
But
Let the other teams be
question.
bad. Let 31 other teams in the league be bad on special
But
teams.
it's for the discussion. You compare yourself to other teams. That's what everybody does. You are comparing yourselves to the Colts yesterday, and you failed the test.
Well,
right?
they would have failed to test this time.
Line of I don't care about everybody else. I only care about mine. Well, you're in a league where you compare yourself to everybody else.
But
that's what I'm asking.
But comparing yourself, it's just like anything else. When you're in a classroom, yes, you're doing your individual work, but we all have the same paper. So the teacher is basing the grading, curve on the average of everybody else. But I tell my son, listen, I don't care about what everybody else does. It's about
that's
you.
What you should.
Exactly.
That's
So
what
with the
should.
Titans,
you should strive
Vrabel,
to be the best.
Exactly.
But
Vrabel
when we're
doesn't
trying to
care.
You evaluate yourself.
But you can't evaluate
you
can't evaluate the special teams unit based upon what everybody else is doing. If you're a bad special teams unit, you're a bad special teams unit. I don't care what anybody else is doing. The whole league can be bad. If you're bad, you're right along with them, and we need to get it fixed. That's what I'm saying. I understand the numbers that you're throwing out, Willie. I get that. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. This team has given up way too much on special teams. That's what I'm saying. They've given up returns, big returns. They've muffed punts. They've got punts blocked. How many punts have gotten blocked this year?
5 in the NFL.
And 3 of them have been for the Titans. 3 of them, Willie. 3 of them. 5 have been blocked.
The first
and
one,
3.
The first one I looked at. Does it go down as a block?
That is a block. It didn't go past the line of scrimmage.
Yes, it did. It was a 1-yard punt. I looked it up against the Saints.
But it was a block punt. The guy hit the punt. He hit it.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking about statistically. Does it actually count as one of the 5 when it's a 1-yard punt? Because in the stats, when I'm looking it up, I can't find it in a column that says block punt. But I looked it up. The one you're saying. It doesn't say in the play-by-play it was blocked. It says Ryan Stonehouse.
But you know who considered a block punt? Players on that team.
Yeah, no,
because it only went 1 yard, and now we have to start at a position where we don't need to be starting at as a defensive unit.
My point is, you guys say there have been 5 block punts all year long, but that wasn't technically one of the 5.
I count it as a block.
There's more than 5. I know it essentially was, but statistically it's not. So there's more than 5.
Well, hell, they got half of them. They got half. They have half of the block punts in the National Football League. Basically.
There are 3 blocked punts technically recorded. One of those that's not recorded is the one in New Orleans, and I believe one of them yesterday is not technically considered a blocked punt. So I am adding those 2 into the 3 listed. Have there been other in the NFL that I haven't seen that have been recorded as a 1-yard punt? Maybe. I don't know. Right. But I'm just saying.
There's other block punts that go forward, and
3 of them are you. Whether there's 6, whether there's 30 in the NFL,
there's more
3 of them are you, and that is too many for my liking, especially when it costs you a game that you should have won yesterday.
How many punts have been partially blocked that go forward for 5-10 yards?
I don't know.
That are not mixed
I don't know,
there?
And frankly, I don't
But
care.
this one only went 1 yard.
But
barely.
That was bad. It was 1 yard.
Yeah. And I think they were being generous. I'm looking at the numbers relative to everybody else.
I'm not watching everybody else's special teams every week, and neither are you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're scrutinizing the special teams, and
because they're not good.
Because it's a sore thumb in what they're doing as a team. Now there's a lot of sore thumbs, but the special teams unit, again, we look at the special teams unit as, hey, listen, just don't don't do anything that's going to cost us the game. Make your field goals, punt the ball, protect, don't allow long returns. Again, we call those hitting yardage because we're not expecting things like that to happen. But when they happen, you hope that they happen in your favor. But in this situation, as it has happened throughout the season at times, it hasn't been to the Titans' favor.
And how many times does Mike Vrabel stress and emphasize, got to play well on special teams, got to play clean on special teams? You weren't clean on special teams yesterday, so where's the accountability? We'll hear from Mike Vrabel coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, Mike Vrabel's up at the podium.
That cost you. So I want to thank Craig for what he's done for us, certainly in the time that I've been here. But felt like this was the best thing for the team and for the players moving forward. Most importantly, the players. So with that, take some questions on the game and upcoming game here with the Dolphins.
That decision, was that like something over time? Or was that
Yeah,
reaction?
just trying to evaluate, what we do, who we do it with. I just felt like this was the timing was what it needed to be, and I felt like it was best for the team and for the players, especially going forward.
I don't recall you making an in-season move before.
No, Corey. No, that had again, everything is, there's no real precedent to anything. It's, you try to get a feel for, what's best and what's needed, and whether we've done something in the past. There's, times in, we haven't run a certain coverage or we hadn't run certain plays, and I think those decisions are about timing and feel. So that's that's the decision that was made, and again, we're going to get back to work here, moving forward and trying to get as healthy as possible and go down and win a game against a very good opponent on a road and a big stage.
Once you look back at those two blocked punts, was it a scheme issue that they took advantage of, or what did they see?
Again, we'll have to make sure, that everything that we do, that there's confidence from the players, that there's an execution that's reasonable to expect them to do, whether that's blocks on kickoff return, protection on the punt, understanding from the specialists of where pressure may come from, just like the quarterback. And you talk about punt protections, about building a pocket. And, so again, that's, there's a lot of things that came up. Everything, that they, as another team is looking at is just like us. How do we want to attack certain things, or how do we want to play against them, in the red zone or third down? Same thing would be said on special teams. And, everything we do, we want to be sound in and make sure that we play with great effort and that there's execution. And, there were, we'll just have to be better going forward.
Had you had any major issues with the special teams unit before yesterday's troubles?
Well, there's always positive plays. There's, plays that, we've had, listen, you can't win games with having, 3 punt blocks. So whether that's, scheme, personnel, it's on everything. And so again, decided to make a change.
I guess Derek being waved to the sideline, did he have a concussion? Is he in protocol?
Derek, just to touch on that a little bit, what was removed from the game, I saw it, so I was headed out there just because I saw how he got up, and so did the trainers and so did the players, which was great. And then came over, was checked. They deemed him, not able to return, but then he's doing great. 0 symptoms. Worked out this morning. So not in the protocol as of now, but we would monitor how he's feeling and any symptoms that may come up, just like we would do any player. So again, as of now, it's doing great, and that's great news, exciting.
How does that work where you're pulled out, but then later you're not in the protocol? Like, what's the process for that?
As far, he comes in, it's like we checked on him last night. We check in with him, and like we do every player that's injured or doesn't finish the game. Then we check in on him in the morning. If he's able to come in, they come in, does the, takes a symptom score, and that gets reported. And if there's a symptom score, then they enter into the protocol. And then when that symptom score, if there was a symptom score, then they would report it each day. When it gets to a certain level, they start conditioning, they start weight training, and then they see an independent doctor. They take an impact test, and then an independent doctor ultimately. So as far as like Traylon, just to kind of give you some context, he was reporting 0 symptoms, which allows him now to practice last week. take the impact test, pass that, have a full practice, and then get cleared on Saturday morning by the doctor. Could have been Friday afternoon, but they were in brain surgery, so they thought that was more important than getting him cleared from the protocol. So if that helps, that's kind of how it goes. If a player reports 0 symptoms, it would be hard to put them in the protocol, but you would monitor how he feels, and after he works out, check on him, good, let him go through the day, we'll check on him again later on, and if it's still at 0, then I would assume that there's not a protocol to enter into.
Stoney's situation, season ending?
Yeah, Stoney's going to have surgery and get fixed and come back stronger than ever and ready to go. So certainly don't want to lose players, and that's unfortunate.
Do you proceed with caution with Derek, or just kind of monitor how things are Wednesday, Thursday, and if everything continues to look good?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we would, I think we would do that with any player that was in that situation, whether it was Derek or anybody else. So hope that he continues to have 0 symptoms, and not that I'm a doctor or any visual test, but when I spoke with him after the game, him and I were probably one of the last 2 to leave. Having been in this and seeing guys that were in the protocol, Derek appeared normal. He went home. We followed up with him at night and again today. So, whatever that is, we'll monitor through the week.
How do you like how Tom Quinn has done since he's been here, and what's that like in season, having a new voice maybe leading that group?
Well, I don't think any of us know, and I told Tom to, we would meet more this afternoon, and that this is his opportunity, to continue the stuff that we do well, and we got to work hard to fix the stuff that has become or that is issues. We have to find a new punter, which is a new holder, and but Tom's been great. He's been he's a good teacher. Like his ideas, like his input that he has, and his experience.
Have you had an opportunity to talk with the team about the move yet, or is the meeting coming later today?
No, our players will be back in a team setting on Wednesday. I feel like the best thing to do is, get them some rest and recover, treat, make sure they lift, and they're through the building. We'll see them, and just, haven't had that conversation yet.
Is Brett Kern an option, or is he?
I think anybody that can punt and hold would be an option.
What's the division of labor challenge when you make a move like this? I mean, obviously you've got those guys have done a certain amount of things. I assume other people are going to take that over. How do you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we have plenty of guys that can, that can help if needed. I don't anticipate there being, it just about conversations that we have about making sure that, who we're going to use, who's available. And making sure that that the players understand, and making sure that they're able to execute to the best of their ability.
Defensively, did great in the red zone, but gave up a lot of explosive plays that put you in tough spots when you look back at yesterday.
Yeah, just explosive passes. No.
What did you see good and bad?
I didn't have a chance to answer Jimmy's question. I just I was pausing to think how I was going to answer. Yeah, the gadget, which, give credit to them. They hit a play just like we did on a couple of ours. And they just, they unfortunate to hit one over the top there. SMB was, pressed and challenged, and, and then, Elijah, that's a mistake. We have to, there's a difference between a handing it to them and making them earn it, and there was a clear difference in those two plays. They still got the yards, and they still won the football game. So, you can see how many good plays there are in there. Third down, run defense, swarming, handling the RPOs, being locked in, knowing what's going on, and then, one play, cost you.
Will said that he felt yesterday was his worst game as since he took the starting job. What was your assessment of how he played after watching the film?
Well, I certainly appreciate that attitude. I think that's what you have to be able to do. You have to be able to, give credit, to the people around you when things go well, and you have to be able to accept the blame when they don't go well. And Will had some really cool positive plays in there. There were some times where, I'm sure he would have liked to look somewhere different or deliver the football. He had some good throws in there, and 50-50 decision there on a mirrored route to Hops on the left and Nick's on the right, and the guy on the right bit on a double move and the guy on the left didn't, and he looked to the left, and I'd wish he'd looked to the right. Like, that's how it goes. But there were still some really cool throws in there, and then just continue to see the picture when if guys cut at the corner cuts and drops, trying to get the big one off of that. I know he'll keep working hard, and he'll keep finding ways to help us move the football.
A combination of the toughness that you kind of alluded to yesterday, and then just the awareness of seeing a guy fumble the ball, go force a fumble, recover the fumble, return it, all these things. How rare is that in a guy at quarterback?
Well, I mean, it just, that I think that's what you're looking for in the entire football team, whether that's, Tajay, batting the pass down, Chig, trying to play to the recovery, Aziz trying to play to the recovery. I mean, in a dead sprint after we hit the quarterback one time. And so, you asked about Will, and that was, there was certainly an energy and an effort and, go tackle the guy with the ball. You've seen quarterbacks kind of in the past stay out of the fray, and that doesn't look good. And I think that the message it sends to the team is a real positive one when you can say, man, I don't know if that was a fumble. I don't know if he intercepted it. I'm going to let him sort it out, but I'm going to go do my part. And, he wasn't the only one, but it was great to see him do that. But then also let's not lose sight of the other guys that did that as well.
Run block. What you're dealing with Jeffrey Simmons' injury?
Jeffrey will be, he'll be out here for a couple weeks. We'll see where he's at, but he'll be unavailable on Monday.
The run blocking from Jalen Duncan, that was good, but on the opposite, the pass pro wasn't as good. What were some of the things that you saw from him?
Well, I would say to that, I may probably disagree on how good. If you just look at, I think it was inconsistent. I think there were some really good things that improved from last week. Used Derek's first touchdown as an example. Talked about trying to get in on the backside, get in to the line of scrimmage on the backside, so that the big fella doesn't have to go and check, his feet. He kind of rolled and was able to then run by the corner, something that was very positive. Other blocks, in the run game need a little bit of work. Some things that we focused on, improved, much like in pass protection. There were times where really, really good, and some other times where, maybe a soft edge or, got beat underneath. So I would say in both of those, whether it was a run or a pass, that you could find positive plays and then things that we need to improve on from Jalen. And, Jalen was disappointed, and I said, well, at least you care, and that's a great place to start. And he'll continue to improve and just try to, do a little bit better each and every week. He rolled a lot of guys at him, some good players, and there's, like you mentioned, there were some good plays in the run game, some good plays in pass protection, but then also some things that we'll have to continue to improve, and I'll have to see. But for just a few starts or whatever second start, we're just scratching the surface.
What can he do better against the speed rush or Kwity Paye, and then also the power that Abu comes?
Yeah, you have to be able to know who it is that you're playing against, read their angle of their stance and how are they coming. Being able to sit down but keep your head out of it, all the things that we teach. And we talk about speed rushers. It's you got to get them at the top of the pocket. They can't corner at 7 yards. They have to corner at 9. And with that being said, it seems like a broken record, but if you're firm in the middle of the pocket and the quarterback can step up and is willing to step up, and then, you can run them by. But if their corner is 7 yards, then it's not reasonable to think that the quarterback has a whole lot of room to step up from there. Just like Arden strip sack last week. Jeffrey pushes the middle of the pocket. The quarterback can't step up, so Arden can corner at 9 yards. And so those all things go hand in hand.
You have two rookies there with Jalen and Peter. How do you feel the communication?
Yeah, I think it's going okay. Yeah, I think it's going okay. It can always be better. I don't think we were, let anybody go free, per se. But I think that they're working hard to communicate, and whether that's with the guard and the tackle or the tackle and the tight end on some of the blocking schemes that we were able to hit, which were cool. Had a bunch of double-digit runs yesterday, and had some ones that weren't efficient, but it was good opportunities for all of us to be able to run the football.
Looked like there was a little bit of an emotional exchange, I guess, between Will and DeAndre there at some point. Are you okay with the way Will handled that, or would you kind of want him to do that a little bit more privately? What were you?
Yeah, we were in front of 60,000 people on national television. They're not, unless they go into the blue tent to handle things privately. These games, there's a lot of emotion that's involved, and I think that as long as there's respect, I think you have to understand that sometimes those conversations, are, I wouldn't say heated. I think those things kind of happen, and you get them fixed and addressed, and move on and try to find ways to help us.
Mike, can you talk through the process yesterday about having Colton up, Kyle down, and getting Traylon back into the mix? But he wasn't. It didn't seem like he was full go for every rep. I think he only had 10.
Yeah, we talked. I was just asked about that yesterday. Only got 48 spots. Eric's been catching punts for us, so special teams and the role that it would play. I would say that Colton's impact on special teams has been noticeable and been really fun to see and cool to see. Wanted to try to get Traylon back going, whether that was for the amount of snaps he played or maybe a few more. Not sure, didn't know. It's hard to tell kind of going into a game exactly how many snaps, but knew it wasn't going to be the full amount or 40 snaps. So hopefully that can increase. And, I know Kyle will be ready, to go. It's just have to try to make a decision on how many players, come to the game based on who does what and the role that they'll play.
Looking at this game on Monday, the last time you were in Miami, it was, an 8-hour game. What are some of the things, like when you guys were on that first intermission and then the longer one? I know, like in Miami, some of the players, like they ate barbecue, they ate mac and cheese.
We were eating pan pizzas from upstairs. The ops guys went upstairs and they were getting mini pizzas from the third deck and brought them down because, we ran out of food. The catering wasn't coming till after the game or whatever it was, but certainly interesting and unique way to start my NFL coaching career.
What do you do to keep them ready?
Well, not a whole lot. It's like this one's going to be a while, so let's take our pads off and hang out, and then try to have an idea of when it may end, and try to ramp back up. Went back out and then did the whole thing all over again. So I have to be ready for everything, I guess.
This year against their weapons and their speed.
Well, it's just what it is. It's a speed. Great skill players, speed. Really good timing. Not only is it fast, but there's a timing element to it that it's not just all just run by you. There's a timing element, and then what they do after the catch has been impressive. Their ability to translate that speed into the run game has also been something, and then obviously the defense is playing well.
don't see left-handed quarterbacks very often. What does that change in terms of how you attack them?
Well, when you start talking about matching a hand and making sure that, you're trying to match, normally, which would have been with, your left, trying to find ways to impact the ball, the way that it comes out. Some of the RPOs come out much quicker, to his left than what traditionally would.
When you look at your run game, it appeared you guys were a lot stronger on first down yesterday. And how important is that moving forward, especially against a team like Miami on Monday night, if you can continue?
Yeah, they're going to have to possess the football, and we're going to do everything that we can to try to possess the football. And again, it was about just getting into the line of scrimmage. Bax did a nice job. I thought Derek ran with a purpose. We gave him, some places to go. I thought Tajay ran with a purpose. It looked like kind of what we wanted to look like. Not that everyone was perfect. There was some pressure, some movements that got us, but we covered them up and we got to 44. When we blocked 44, we gained some yards. I thought receivers did a nice job for the most part, trying to get the support player and helping us get some extra yards.
Do Jalen and Colin give you an improved level of physicality in the run game? More combative style?
Yeah, I think, again, just trying to get into the line of scrimmage with this penetrating front that Indianapolis ran. You have to be able to get in there and cover them up, stop their charge, but also try to find, two linebackers that can run. And, that's a fine line of doing that. Is trying to stop their charge so somebody else can take them over, and then trying to get to the second level. Had some good opportunities of that. And we'll need a lot more. We'll be able to run a football and marry up that run game with our play pass.
What type of situation was it for Trey yesterday coming in at the end? And I guess is Christian, the hamstring get him again there?
Yeah, the hamstring got him again there, and everybody's got to prepare as a starter. You never know when you're going to go in there, what you're going to have to be able to do, whether that's defensive lineman. If a player goes down, it's a inside linebacker, Tajay, going in there, just more of the load, or an offensive lineman. We've seen that happen over and over. So, just you have to be ready when your number's called.
Those couple of plays that Jeff went back in, was he just testing the injury? Was it just kind of what was the process of him?
Yeah, I think he really, did everything that he could. And even made a play, and it just wasn't going to be able to do anything. And if you can't protect yourself out there, nobody wants to put a player in harm's risk. And we're going to trust Jeff to say when he can go and when he can't. And but certainly don't want to put any player at risk when they can't protect themselves, especially inside playing defensive line where there's a lot of bodies that are coming after you and they are trying to get you. So never want to put a player in that position. Thanks, guys.
All right, some news bits there. Derrick Henry is not in concussion protocol. Jeffrey Simmons will be out on Monday night against the Dolphins, and Mike Vrabel said for a couple of weeks. Ryan Stonehouse will undergo season-ending surgery, and the biggest bit of news, Craig Aukerman has been relieved of his special teams duties. Tom Quinn will take over special teams coordinating. We will react to that coming up next, and we will get your reaction to that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Happy Monday once again. Man, listen up. I know you've had a great weekend with all of the sports going on, and if your team made it into the college football playoffs, then congratulations, man. But let's put all of that sports stuff aside, because I need to help you out here, because I need to tell you about Cool Springs MD. Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and his wife Daphne, along with that experienced and wonderful staff, get men the treatment required to improve their quality of life. Cool Springs MD services have already helped many men of Brentwood, Nashville, including yours truly, and the surrounding areas in Tennessee, with improving their immune systems, energy levels, cognitive functions, and more. They are there to connect you with the medical care you require to have a healthy and enriched life. So there's no better time now to achieve a healthy lifestyle. Men, what are you waiting for? Give Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment. Do what I did. Make this appointment. And here's the number, 615-486-3458. That's 615-486-3458. Or visit our website at coolspringsmd.com.
Let me just first start off by saying, had a conversation with Craig Ackerman of going to move on and make a change there in our leadership on a special teams unit. I'm excited about the possibility of Tom Quinn leading that group. Tom's going to take over those duties. Brings a lot of experience and knowledge. He's a great teacher, and so hopefully, we'll be able to continue the stuff that we've done well.
That was Mike Vrabel making the announcement that Craig Ackerman has been relieved of his duties as the Tennessee Titans special teams coordinator. I know Jared Stillman and a whole lot of Tennessee Titans fans out there are rejoicing at that news. Is this the first assistant coach that has been let go midseason by Mike Vrabel?
I think so.
Because Todd Downing was let go at the end of the season last year.
And there hasn't been any other, the offensive line coach was let go at the end of the season
last year.
So I don't think there has been a coaching change during the Mike Vrabel tenure in season. I think this is the first one, which tells me it got to a point where it was just unbearable. Where what happened yesterday. And I'm telling you what he's thinking and what those players are thinking. We did what we were supposed to do offensively and defensively. It wasn't perfect, but we did our job. In the one area that should have done their job too was the special teams unit, and they didn't. So somebody has to be held accountable. Again, it's not like this was the best special teams unit in the National Football League and they just had a bad day. Okay, if that was the case, then okay, you give them a pass. But this hasn't been the best special teams unit in the National Football League since Ackerman has been special teams coach. I'm not saying that he's a horrible coach, but when things are not going the way that they should, there has to be changes. Somebody's going to lose their job, whether they're a good coach or not. Somebody's going to lose their job when the area that they're tasked to taking care of or responsible for isn't doing well and, frankly, costs you a game.
Hurting the team. Willie, what's your reaction to the news?
Well, I always hate to see a coach get fired. I think that's a tough part of the business. I'm sure he worked really hard. But, during our debate when we were kicking all this around, I said I wouldn't be surprised I wouldn't be totally shocked if that's what happened. It happens sometimes in the league. But I will say I think Mike Vrabel is pretty patient with coaches. So it definitely said something to me that he made the move in the middle of the season, right? Because he stands by his guys and gives them the benefit of the doubt more often than not. So, that's noteworthy that he came to that conclusion after that game yesterday. So I really think that game yesterday had a big impact on the decision. Obviously so, but that's what I wonder, D-Mase, is the build-up. How often has he been close to doing it before? At the end of last year, did he feel good about him? He's been the special teams coach for a while. It's hard to know how that stuff works.
I do wonder, and there's no way to know, and they're not going to tell you, but Tom Quinn, who is now going to take over Craig Ackerman's duties, he was hired this season. This is his first season with the Titans. I mean, he's been working as a coach for over 30 years, 16 in the NFL. I do wonder, did they come close to parting ways with Craig Ackerman last season, and Mike Vrabel thought, no, I'm going to give my guy one more opportunity, but we are going to bring in a backup plan in Tom Quinn, who is experienced and who has been coordinating special teams at the college and NFL levels for a very long time. I don't know the answer to that. It could have just been, hey, we want to bring someone in. Hey, we really like this guy. We'd like to have him on the staff. I don't know if this was a contingency plan, but it does make me wonder what the conversations were last season about Craig Ackerman, how long his leash is, and plans in place in case they did decide to ultimately part ways with Craig Ackerman.
But this is what Vrabel does. Y'all got to understand this. What did he do with
Tim Kelly?
Tim Kelly. He brought Tim Kelly in. And what did I say when they brought Tim Kelly in?
Don't be surprised if he's the next guy.
Don't be surprised if he's the next guy. He's not just going to bring Tim Kelly in, a guy that was already an offensive coordinator, bring him in just to be a passing game coordinator or an advisor. No, eventually, because they coached together, eventually he was going to be the guy that was in the seat in regards to the offensive coordinator. And what happened? They end up firing the last guy at the end of the season, and lo and behold, the guy that they brought in at the beginning of the season, he ends up being the offensive coordinator. I guarantee you, this was the same thing. Listen, Ackerman, if you don't get this stuff right, your replacement is right there, right behind you.
And your leash is short.
Exactly. And you didn't get it right. So what did he do? It was just an easy segue. I don't have to wait till after the season. I don't have to go out and find another special teams coach, do all this interviewing. The guy that I want is in-house. They knew it when we brought him in here. If you don't get this stuff right, you will be replaced. And yesterday was just a combination of so much other stuff that was going on with the special teams unit.
And I think it shows just how bad things were. That this is the first assistant coach that's been let go midseason by Mike Vrabel. And that's considering how the Titans had one of the worst offenses in the NFL And Todd Downing got a DUI in the middle of the season, and he still was let go at the end of last season. And his replacement was still already in place, waiting to take over the offensive coordinator position. So it's not like they would have had to go through some long coaching search to find their next OC. No, he was in place. He was in-house as the Titans passing game coordinator, rather. And they still waited until the end of the season to let go of Todd Downing. They let go of Craig Aukerman today. Yeah. That says something. That shows me that they had enough. I want to get into your thoughts on this. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHenry.com. Adam in Portland is on the line. What's up, Adam?
Why is this like big news for everyone? That's the dumbest. It's the most obvious thing that should have been done. But the fact that it is obvious and it has been obvious for so long and it now has happened, that's what makes it so big. Yeah, and Willie, you're like rational, you're level-headed. But as a fan, I'm like, this dude sucks, and he got our best player. I think Stonehouse is our best player. Like pound for pound, he's our best player. When you have a sucky team, your punter has to be so legit to even give you a chance to be in some games. And he did it, and he got him hurt. He did, and really Vrabel did because he's kept him on the staff so long. Like that's what makes me like want to scream from a mountain. And Derrick Henry gets hurt. I'm not saying it ties together. Jeffrey Simmons gets hurt. Those are our three best players, and they all get hurt.
That's Ackerman's fault? No, I'm just messing with you.
No, listen, but what I'm saying, man, is that it's like if we weren't the team that set the amount of players record 2 seasons in a row, I probably wouldn't be so upset about it. But like, dude, you could have protected that guy. Like, you could have figured out a way to protect one of your best players. That's why I'm just like, this is an obvious move, man.
What was your reaction when you heard it, Adam?
I just heard it whenever I was running on a treadmill. I started running harder. I'm like,
love to hear it.
You got a little surge of adrenaline.
Love it. Adam, thank you for your call. Appreciate it.
Yeah, he mentioned something there. I do wonder. I wondered a couple things as he was announcing this because, again, if you missed our discussion earlier, the point I just made was, and this is not the end-all, be-all of stats, but I look at analytics, and the analytics site had them ranked 9th. I was trying to be fair and sort of point out the big picture here. Mm-hmm. So when we say you could see this coming week after week, I didn't see that as a glaring thing. Yesterday it became glaring. So why was it glaring? The 2 block punts, yes, but also getting Stonehouse hurt. I wonder how that played in as well. No, that and the fact that they lost the game. Like if they don't call the illegal contact and that sack stands and they hang on and win 28-25, that's another thing I think about. Like the things, everything just sort of reached it went from whatever it was to a 10.
Yeah.
Right. And so at that point, that's when you're really vulnerable as a coach. And sometimes you get so caught up in the moment there that's when decisions like that get made. So what do you think of that? The fact that he got hurt, do you think that was a factor? In saying, okay, it's time. I've got to do this. I
think that probably, I'm not going to say it wasn't a factor.
I think it has to be.
Yeah, it has to be. But I think more importantly, we did the things that we were supposed to do offensively and defensively. We play the most downs. More than likely, if we are winning and losing games, it's because of what we're doing offensively and defensively. You don't want the special teams unit to affect the game in a negative way. Again, we call these hidden yardage, and if the hidden yardage don't go your way, then more times than not, then somebody needs to be held accountable. I think it's we are not a good team, but for one Sunday, both the offense and the defense did what they were supposed to do, and y'all didn't. So I'm holding you accountable for it because it hasn't been perfect since you took the job. I've kept you as long as I possibly could, but that is inexcusable. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure maybe the owner called yesterday and was like, "What's going on? Or the GM, what's going on?"
Interesting question. I wonder if there was a call, what's going on call. Not necessarily
like fire, but what's going on here.
But that has happened, right? That's a famous George Steinbrenner. He just makes the call. You got to fire this hitting coach or whatever. I mean, it does happen in sports where the owner says, look, head coach, I don't care what you say, but we're doing that. And sometimes the head coach will fall on the sword and lose his own job because he doesn't want to do that.
We've seen
but
that.
I don't think that. I'm guessing that probably was not the case here.
I do want to get into.
But there might have been a
that.
what's going on call though.
Yeah, I do want to get into more of that. The motivating factor for this. What went behind the scenes of the firing? But before we get into that, I want to get back into some of your phones. Tim is on the line with a Titans question. What's up, Tim?
Tim.
Go ahead, Tim.
I guess
Tim,
Tim
if you know the number 615-737-1025, call us back. All right. Well, I want to get into that coming up next. Is ownership. What kind of involvement was that in this decision? If there was involvement in that. Mike Vrabel, how much is he looking at it like, hey, it's either you or me, and I don't want it to be me, so it's going to be you. We'll get into that coming up next, and we'll get back into your phones and texts as well. 615-737-1025. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Hey, Preds fans, don't miss this Wednesday night Smashville live show at Brewhouse 100 in Bellevue at 6 p.m. You can see your Predators star players up close and personal. You can get autographs and pictures. This week's special guests are Cody Glass and Colton Sissons. Smashville Live is brought to you by the Black Abbey Brewing Company.
Like how Tom Quinn has done since he's been here, and what's that like in season, having a new voice maybe leading that group?
Well, I don't think any of us know, and I told Tom to, we would meet more this afternoon, and that, this is his opportunity, to continue the stuff that we do well, and we got to work hard to fix the stuff that, has become or that is issues. We have to find a new punter, which is a new holder. And, but Tom's been great. He's been, he's a good teacher. I like his ideas. I like his input that he has and, his experience.
That was Mike Vrabel, Tom Quinn taking over special teams duties. Again, the news of the day, Craig Aukerman has been fired as the Tennessee Titans special teams coordinator. Now, one thing that we touched on before the break, and I want to get back into your phones. One thing we touched on before the break is ownership involvement in this decision. Amy Adams-Strunk was watching that game and was probably thinking the same things that we were thinking. And my goodness, that's a game that we could have won had the special teams had the 2 punts not been blocked, not missed an extra point, had special teams not given up all of those big returns. So how much of this was a Mike Vrabel motivated decision of, you know what, I need to make this team better, and also I need to save my own ass, and I need to make the decisions, tough decisions, of course. I need to make the tough decisions to make this team better and to save myself. And how much was it, Amy Adams-Strunk, Mike, we need to do something about this. That was my best Amy Adams-Strunk impression. We're not going to know, but I do wonder.
There could have been, I wouldn't put it past that happening, because it was like one of those deals where there's a lot of bad stuff going on, but when you finally get it right, everything's looking good, and then all of a sudden the thing that has had some trouble, but it just reared its ugly head in a big way and just messes up everything. I think of when you go back and you look at it, you say, well, we need to change some things. Mm-hmm. Like, we need to make sure this doesn't happen anymore, because it seemed like we had everything, at least for that game, on track. And Amy had to be looking at it just like we were looking at it. Like 200, okay, one, okay, even though you don't want one. But the very next punt, you get another one blocked? No.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, that is truly unacceptable. And I wouldn't put it past a phone call from Amy like, what's going on? How are you going to fix this? Not necessarily you need to fire him, but how are you going to fix this?
Yeah. And you're losing your punter for the year.
Exactly.
It has an effect going forward.
All pro punter, probably.
Yeah. And so I think there's emotion involved. Mm-hmm. I do think it's like it's a send a signal type of thing. Ownership's involvement, that's a really tricky question, and it's hard for any of us to really know. But I think we know human emotion, right? When you're invested in something, it's natural to ask a lot of questions. But I still stand by what I said in the first hour. I think going forward, there's way bigger issues than Titans special teams, and that is how's Levis coming along. There was a great discussion during the press conference about Jalen Duncan. This guy's got a huge opportunity. He may not be their left tackle for the next 5 years, but is he a suitable player that is going to have some value? That's what he's going to try to prove here, and he's going to have a heck of a test from now down. Can he survive these last handful of games against some good teams that they're going to play? It's a great question. But to me, those are the big issues. Those are the real issues, much more so in the big picture of who the special teams coach is. But I get the move.
This team needs a lot of help. This team's got a lot of things that are going to be on the offseason to-do list. But as far as the ownership involvement, Craig Aukerman's firing, I don't know what happened. They're not going to tell us. Exactly. We're not going to know. But part of me hopes that this was a Mike Vrabel motivated decision and that Amy Adams-Strunk didn't have to pick up the phone and say, Mike, we need you to fire the special teams coordinator. Because I would hope that Mike Vrabel could look at something that needs to change and acknowledge it and be able to make that tough decision. One thing that we've talked a lot about is maybe a level of arrogance with Mike Vrabel, where There might be moves that he's not willing to make or things that he's not willing to admit because of his own hubris, because of his own, I know and you don't. I played in this league and you didn't. I hope that Mike Vrabel would at least look at something that was so obvious yesterday and say, that's on me and I need to make a change.
And I think that's why the change was made, because it was so obvious. There's no
So
way
obvious.
to defend that. You've defended Ackerman for the last couple of years, and I get it and I understand. But there was no defending this. There was nothing you could say that would appease the fan base or appease anyone in that room that were asking questions had you not made the change. So this was almost like I got to do it. Like, I've given you an opportunity. I looked the other way and allowed you to do your job, but it's gotten to a point where it's noticeable. It's like really noticeable. I can't even look at the good stuff to try to justify what happened last night. And you had to make the change.
That brings up a great question. Let me ask you guys this. This is totally hypothetical. Two things are changed. I wave a magic wand. Stonehouse isn't hurt, and the Titans win the game. Does he make this move today?
If there are two block punts, if there's still two block punts, I think he still would.
But Stonehouse doesn't get injured on the second one. He's still okay, and they win the game instead. Does he make this move today? I wonder the answer to that question.
I say yes, he is still fired because I don't think that wins and losses can necessarily justify still making mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, let's say, for example, we talk about the offensive line a lot. Let's say, Andre Dillard, he's getting beat on every single snap. That's not really much of a hypothetical. We've seen that plenty of times. Andre Dillard gets beat over and over and over and over again. Titans still win the game. Andre Dillard's still a problem. You still need to address left tackle. You still need to upgrade left tackle. So I don't think that wins and losses can necessarily justify not making moves or not, or addressing issues or not. Mike Vrabel talks about it all the time. We got teaching moments in wins or losses. So I still say yes, because win or lose, special teams were still a problem yesterday.
I'm a side with Carolina on this because, listen, and I heard Shannon Sharp say this the other day. He said that when he was with the Broncos, and I think Shanahan was the coach at the time, he said what he didn't allow in the win, in the loss, he didn't allow in the win. Like, just because we won doesn't mean that doesn't need to get fixed. Yeah. So that's the way I believe Mike would have probably approached it. Yeah, we won, but that doesn't mean you're not going to be held accountable. We won because we did the necessary things defensively to stop them, or offensively to score points. But that still doesn't take away the special teams coach in your unit gave up 2 block punts. I just think he still would have had to do it anyway.
I think it's a fair answer either way. I just sometimes the emotions are not as high. Maybe that. I just don't think as often you see a coach get replaced after a win, as opposed to a loss. And on top of it, the injury to Stonehouse to me is that's the one brutal. Going forward that it's got to be burning Mike Vrabel, because as he said, you're not just losing a great punter, but you're losing the holder, and so it's got a domino effect. Like I go back to I kept thinking of our discussion yesterday. While this is all unfolding, about what Tim Hasselbeck said about the importance of the holder to the kicker when we had the whole kicker conversation early in the season. So, it could have lasting effect, not just with who the next punter is, but you got to get the right punter to be the right holder, so Folk can continue to do what he's been doing.
It's a huge loss, no doubt. Yeah. We're going to chat with TD in 5 minutes, but before we get to TD, I want to get some of your thoughts. Bill is on the line with a special teams question. What's up, Bill?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah. Gotcha. Go ahead.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Hey, thanks for taking my call. I have a question on those 2 block punts. Why wasn't roughing the kicker called, especially on the second punt? I just thought there was some roughing the kicker. I didn't know they had rule changes on that, but wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, thanks for your call, Bill. And it's a question that a lot of Titans fans I saw on social media had, and I see it in our text line. since there was contact made with
Yeah.
the ball,
It's not roughing.
you can do really whatever you want.
Yeah.
I compare it to a sack versus roughing the passer. That if you are holding the football, if the quarterback's holding the football and you hit the quarterback, that's a sack.
Yeah.
If the quarterback lets go of the ball, that's roughing the passer.
Exactly.
They made contact with the ball and then contact with the punter, so it's not roughing.
It all works simultaneously. If you get any of the ball, they will never call roughing the punter on that in that situation. Now, if you miss it and you run into the punter, now that's a different story. But if you make connection with the ball as you're rushing the punter and then subsequently run into the punter or fall or tackle a punter or whatever, it's still considered a block punt and not a roughing the kicker.
Quickly, Cam has a Titans question. What's up, Cam?
Yeah, so, I mean, I love all the shows, and I listen to everybody from the start at 6 o'clock until Jared in the afternoon.
Thank you for listening.
And the best thing about Mondays is the reaction to what happened on Sunday. And I cannot imagine how Jared Stillman feels right now after he asked Vrabel why he kept Ackerman, and he belittled Vrabel, or Vrabel belittled him and tried to embarrass him. So I know what the entire show this afternoon is going to be set up for, and I cannot wait.
It should be a good one. Thanks for your call, Cam. How does Jared feel? I think like the king of the world.
Exactly.
Oh, I feel like so you guys are going to look over your shoulder in the parking lot. There's going to be some people wheeling some kegs in and bringing them up the stairs. It's going to be
a big party.
Celebration.
There's
no question about it.
Going to be carried in by a posse. Jared.
Here's real quick. This is an interesting little note about the previous call about why is it not roughing the punter. What's interesting is how it goes down in the stats. We had this discussion earlier. Technically, it wasn't a block punt on the play that Stonehouse gets injured. Here's how it's recorded in the play-by-play. Stonehouse fumbles. They call it a fumble.
What in the hell were they looking at?
A punt.
What in the hell were they looking at?
So that's my question. Did he actually block the punt? But like you said, he's fair game as he's holding the ball, just like the quarterback's fair game before he throws it. But statistically, it's odd that in the stats this year, there is only one block punt and not three. You mentioned the one against the Saints that went 1 yard, so technically it's not a block punt. That's a weird stat.
It is a weird stat. And I still consider both of those block punts.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
But it goes down as officially Stonehouse fumbled the ball on that for an 11-yard loss.
Well,
isn't that weird?
And it's a block punt.
Probably a block punt. I'm gonna call it a block punt. Okay?
Yeah.
If it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a block punt.
Exactly.
The net result is the same.
The net result is the same. We'll chat with TD, Teron Davenport, coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the Craig Ackerman news. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106 for the game. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025-1063, The Game, and the Game Nashville app. We are live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios. And joining us now is Teron Davenport. TD, appreciate you for joining us. Mike Vrabel makes the announcement that Craig Aukerman has been relieved of his duties as special teams coordinator. What'd you make of the move? Were you surprised that Mike Vrabel made that move today?
No, you know what? I wasn't surprised. I had a feeling that was going to happen, to be honest with you, because it's just Murphy's Law. Like, I have an announcement. I'm a proud grandfather now. I'm a pop, and I'm
congratulations!
I
congrats, bro.
I booked a flight to fly back to Philly to see my little peanut, and I knew that with it being a 2:17 flight, something like this would happen, so I'm en route to the back home to get my bags, and I'm on my way to the airport. So, it didn't surprise me. And then, especially after a game like yesterday, I mean, the blunders. I mean, you have your punter. He's lost for the season. He's one of your ultimate weapons. You have the block punt for a touchdown. You missed the extra point that would have avoided the game from going into overtime. There was just a lot of things going on, and unfortunately, Mike Vrabel, he had to make a move on something that is not characteristic or typical of what he does.
Well, first of all, TD, congratulations on the addition to your family. I hope you have safe travels back to Philly. And Mike Vrabel wasn't going to say it, and he's not going to tell us, but we were kind of throwing this around. We were wondering, what motivated that move? Was that a Mike Vrabel move where he said, you know what, I got to make this change to make my team better? Or was that an Amy Adams Strunk call where she said, Mike, something's got to give here?
Yeah, I don't know where it came from, but it's a move that somebody said had to happen. We know that, obviously. And I think when you look at it, I asked him, actually, if that was something that had been brewing or if it, was like a new thing. And he said that it was just what he felt was best for the team. So that's pretty much it.
We'll talk with Teron Davenport, the new granddaddy in the house.
That's right. That's right. Say it one more time.
The new granddaddy.
Yes, sir.
Papa TD.
Papa, I prefer that.
Papa TD. I look at this game, and we've talked about it before we had you on. At this point, wins and losses, it's not going to make a big difference. We know the ultimate, what's going to happen at the end of the season. This team is not going to make the playoffs. But if you look at this game, it seemed like they put it all together from a defensive standpoint and the offensive standpoint. But there's one little thing that I am just a little bit concerned with. And let me, tell me if you feel sort of the same way. And it's with the quarterback. I think because he's not getting the protection that he needs to get, he's starting to build some bad habits, throwing off your back foot, lofting the ball in the air, and he's playing sort of hero ball because he has to, because the guys up in front. I'm worried that he's building bad habits because of the offensive line.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. There's some bad habits that are building. And, when you look at what he does pregame, he actually practices throwing off his back foot, so that lets you know. But it's something that he's done, even when he was the emergency quarterback option. So that's nothing new. But, yeah, I mean, the hero ball part of it is it reminds me of Carson Wentz, when he first got to the Eagles in 2016. And it's like, Tina Turner song, we don't need another hero, has to play in his headset, you know what I mean? But it's just tough. And then you look at, how sometimes he has to stare down the blitz or the pass rush and deliver the ball down the field. It's a tough situation for him. And it's one of those things, right, where they say you got to make sure that, you don't break the young quarterback. And I don't think that he's going to be broken, but your bad habits, they are developing.
And also another young guy, Tajay Spears. I think he showed that he can be a player and make plays for this team. His running style, his ability to get in and out of holes very quickly, hit the sidelines very quickly. Do you believe you will start to see him more as the season goes on, understanding that this Derrick Henry leaving the game with a concussion, and I know Mike spoke on it and said he's not in protocol, but it only takes one more hit that will ultimately put you back in the protocol. Do you see Spears getting more carries? And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but this young kid can run.
Yeah, no, Spears could absolutely run. He's a really good player. And I tell you what, they need to up his awareness on Madden after, the play that he had knocking the ball down. And they believe that he can run. They definitely believe that he's a legit running back, and he runs hard. And Mike Vrabel has commented multiple times about how Spears is able to, make the first man miss. Mm-hmm. And you saw that yesterday. So, yeah, absolutely, man. He should get more carries, and he's a guy that can help out in the pass pro as well as catching the ball out of the backfield.
Teron Davenport is with us. Teron, take that a step further, because I when I watch him run, his numbers look really, really good. And I keep waiting. I feel like it should translate more to receiving numbers. And I know they really believe that can happen. But if you look at the stats, his receiving numbers aren't nearly as good. Do you still feel like there's a level he could get to there?
Yeah, I mean, there's another level that Spears could get to without a doubt. I mean, the guy's just a rookie. He's 12 games into his rookie year. I want to see how he goes about being able to overcome that rookie wall that guys tend to hit. I remember talking to Roger McCreary about that last year, and he said it hit, but he made it through. So, you look at around this time, within the next couple of weeks, as you get towards later in December, that's typically when college guys, they stop playing. That's when the season ends. So it's going to be interesting seeing how he works through that, and especially if this workload is increased, which is obviously possible with Henry and the concussion situation.
You had some good stuff with DeAndre Hopkins after the game with everything that has gone on. I really like how Hopkins has handled himself. I didn't know about that part of him. I was just looking at stats, and I remember the highlights. I think he's handled himself through this season really well, and Will Levis is very fortunate to have a guy like that on the team that's helping him come along. How do you evaluate, how do you see their interaction right now, their relationship?
Yeah, well, you got a guy right next to you who I'm sure had similar interactions with various quarterbacks, and it's just something that happens, right? It's in the heat of the moment. You're talking about ultimate competitors, and you're going to have disagreements, but as men, you have to be able to have that and move on to the next play, and I think that's what they have. And I also say this about the guy next to you by the name of Derek Mason, old peanut head fella. I will say this. I will, and Caroline, you saw the tweet yesterday, and I will stand on the top of the mountain and say that Derek Mason is one of the best all-purpose players this game has ever seen and needs to be in the Hall of Fame. And that's just period. I'll stand on that 10 toes down. But unfortunately, Mason, DeAndre Hopkins passed you for, career receiving yards with 12,075, I believe it is. You had 12,061, and he also became one of the few receivers to have over 900. I think it was 900 reception.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's doing a good job. I mean, D-Hop, that's just an attestment of, I know he did. He missed some games because of injury. What was it, last season? Suspension and then injury, obviously. But he's been a model of consistency in this league, and he's played at a high level for an extremely long time. So kudos to him, and I know he will continue to, push guys aside on that list as he continues to play. God forbid any injuries, he's going to continue to, walk himself or catch himself up that list of great receivers that are ahead of him.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me add this. He's the perfect example of why you allow a person to show you who they are, right? Because there's this thing in the NFL air that DeAndre Hopkins is a temperamental person that he
doesn't practice,
a diva and all this stuff. Well, I tell you what, I haven't seen any of that. Would like to see him speak more than just Friday. That's something, but haven't seen any of that as far as like in the locker room and the guy bought a Papa Shop for the the players in the locker room. But then even you just look after the conversations, that he has after the games, it's all positive, and he's a good example of what I said.
And everything that we can see in the game, he scored that touchdown, was the third, fourth quarter yesterday, and Nick Westbrook-Akine comes running over, celebrates with him. But there was one thing that I saw yesterday that I know a lot of Titans fans were talking about, and it was his back and forth with Will Levis on the sidelines yesterday. Honestly, TD, I kind of liked it. I liked what I saw. I liked the passion from both of them. What did you make of it?
No, exactly. I like that too. I mean, it's good to see guys, and I like the fact that this guy, he's a future Hall of Famer, right? And Will Levis is a rookie quarterback, 20-something years old, and he stood up and he made sure that his point was delivered. So, that's a positive thing for Titans fans who are looking for a good positive out of all this.
Last one for you, TD, because I know that you've got a little peanut to get to, that you've got some people to see and a flight to catch. Special teams aside, because we've been talking about special teams a lot today, rightfully so, how I felt like that was really what cost the Titans the game yesterday. What were some areas that you thought the Titans could improve upon yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about, right, the arrow man. You got to pick that up, right? Mm-hmm. You got to make that adjustment, and that obviously didn't happen, so you have that. I thought the coverage was pretty good. There was one return, I believe it was, just thinking off the top of my head, that was a little, the Isaiah McKenzie had to return to set up the field goal or whatnot. So you did have that, but I thought Colton Dowell had a solid game, and Anthony Kendall also. They had some really good tackles where they broke down well, and they brought the punt returner down soon after he caught the ball. So you can improve that. I mean, this team hasn't had a punt return for a touchdown since before I moved here, so that's something that has to get better. They did have a kick return. Darius Jennings returned one in the Miami game in 2018, but they need to be able to find that win in the margin, right, where you get a field position. And again, I point to the guy next to you. He did that consistently for this organization and for Baltimore.
TD, congratulations to you and your family. Enjoy time with your family. Have safe travels, and we'll chat with you soon. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. I'll be back Wednesday.
All right, we'll see you Wednesday then. I know it's a quick turnaround. I know you wish you could have some more time there, but enjoy it while you have it.
Thank you.
All right, TD, safe travels. TD, Teron Davenport, new grandpa on the block. Exciting news for TD. And that was one thing, D-Mase, that I wanted to get your thoughts on, the exchange between Levis and D-Hop. You've probably had a similar exchange with a quarterback, rookie or not, several times in your career.
Well, yeah, I've had it with, Joe Flacco his rookie season. I've had it
and you're a vet at that point.
I've had it with Mac. It's just one of those things in the heat of the moment. It's, two guys that are, going at it because they both want the same thing. Mm-hmm. They both want success. He may have thought he should have looked a little bit sooner, or he ran the wrong route. And D-Hop was probably, thinking, no, you should have just thrown a better ball. You should have thrown it in the field of play so I can have an opportunity to catch it. But things like that, you argue about it for about a minute or so, and then after that, it's forgotten. You go on about your business. It happens. People don't realize a lot of that stuff, it happens amongst coaches. Y'all would be flabbergasted at how many times coaches are going at one another on a headset, just cursing and all this other stuff. But it's all in the heat of battle. And it's like, once it's over with, because we're all aiming for the same thing. That's why because there's so much communication going on between coaches, other coaches, players, other players and coaches, everything that every once in a while, more times than not, there's going to be a discussion. Sometimes it gets heated. Sometimes there are words thrown across the bow at one another. Mm-hmm. But it's done because we're all trying to accomplish the same thing. And after it's done, after you say what you need to say, then you move on. Mm-hmm. And you get ready for the next play or the next series. So that's nothing that I'm, now if it continues to happen, then we got a problem, which I don't think it will.
Yeah.
The thing that I was interested in is what Hopkins was going to say after the game. And I think if I'm Will Levis, I'm probably buying him dinner today because I think it's important for the entire team and for the whole operation, right, to see the support that Hopkins has given him because that means a lot, right? And I think we talked about this last week. Levis, and he says this openly, he's trying to feel his way as a really young player, but a quarterback, of how he needs to take the reins and do the job as the quarterback. So I'm impressed at how much he wants to do the right things. And it really helps when you have a veteran guy. And, I'm so glad that Derrick Henry doesn't appear to have anything lingering from what happened yesterday. The support of D-Hop and Derrick Henry for Will Levis is giving him half a chance with a horrendous offensive line. But where would they be without those? Where would Levis be without those guys?
Well, depending on what this offensive line is doing, it would be a lot of struggles.
Yeah, and I appreciate the fact that Will Levis feels empowered enough in this role. Mm-hmm. And not only is he a rookie, but he took over in the middle of the season. That he feels empowered enough in this role to be able to have those kinds of heated conversations with a veteran and fringe Hall of Famer in DeAndre Hopkins. That's how Mike Vrabel. That's how Will Levis should feel. He should feel like if there's something that they're disagreeing about, if there's something that he needed D-Hop to do that D-Hop didn't do, he should be able to feel like that. Now, again, to your point, D-Mase, there's a certain point where it's like, all right, you can't be bickering all the time, but use your voice.
Yeah.
And Willy, you brought up kind of the just how he's been carrying himself. The last two post-game press conferences, Will Levis has said, that's on me. Will Levis, after the game yesterday, said that I think that was the worst game of my career as a Titan. No, I don't think that I necessarily.
Accountability is important.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Accountability of that's the job of a quarterback, I think, is to say when things go wrong, it's on me. When things go right, that's on my team. Whether it's true or not, that's your job as a leader and as a quarterback. And for Will Levis to have such a complex understanding of that so early in his career, I think is a positive thing. But D-Hop was asked about the exchange after the game. This is what DeAndre Hopkins had to say.
That's going to happen. Whatever game this is that Will's played, not that many. But he thought I was doing something, and I thought he was, wanted me to do something else. And obviously, we didn't accomplish what we wanted to accomplish. But I love his passion, love the way he plays the game. Well, I wouldn't tell him to be or do anything different. Be himself.
Well said. Got it.
How important is it, D-Mase, that he backed Levis? I think that's a big thing. That was a big thing. That wasn't a two-way. Well, if you look, he threw it out of bounds. There was a couple plays where I know, like, even Hopkins' body language, you could see he's a little frustrated. He's like, give me a chance to go up. I know how to get my feet down. If you give me a chance, I'll go up and get it. And so he could have kind of done that, but he really gave a strong endorsement of Levis, and that says a lot to me.
Well, you got to let a young guy show his leadership the way he's going to, and trust that it's going to be the best for the team. Nothing that Will Levis has done has shown that his leadership skills are lacking. He's accountable. He stands up, answers all the questions. He gets up when he gets knocked down. He's not playing great football, but he's playing good enough considering what's around him. And he's just holding himself to a higher standard. And I'm sure by holding himself to a higher standard, he's going to hold others to a higher standard. So you allow the young quarterback, to be who he is. Like D-Hop said, be who you are. And allow that leadership to come out through that. And, we'll learn we'll learn the personalities as we go, and we'll learn, when to push back and when not to. But do you, be who you are, because we're going to need that. So kudos to D-Hop to not make it bigger than what it was.
We've got a bunch of texts in our text line. Everything is on the table. Special teams, Craig Aukerman, what we saw from Will Levis and the rest of the team yesterday. So we are right into your phones coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Combination of the toughness that you kind of alluded to yesterday, and then just the awareness of seeing a guy fumble the ball, go force a fumble, recover the fumble, return it, all these things. How rare is that in a guy at quarterback?
Well, I mean, that I think that's what you're looking for in the entire football team, whether that's, Tajay, batting the pass down, Chig, trying to play to the recovery, Aziz trying to play to the recovery. I mean, in a dead sprint after we hit the quarterback one time. And so, you asked about Will, and that was, there was certainly an energy and an effort and, go tackle the guy with the ball. You've seen quarterbacks kind of in the past stay out of the fray, and that doesn't look good. And I think that the message it sends to the team is a real positive one when you can say, man, I don't know if that was a fumble. I don't know if he intercepted it. I'm going to let him sort it out, but I'm going to go do my part. And, he wasn't the only one, but it was great to see him do that. But then also let's not lose sight of the other guys that did that as well.
All right, that was Mike Vrabel. Let's get into your thoughts. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Anything is on the table. Craig Aukerman, again, the news of the day. Mike Vrabel announced at his press conference that special teams coordinator Craig Aukerman has been relieved of his duties. Special teams assistant Tom Quinn will take over as special teams coordinator. Let's get into your thoughts. Chris in Dixon, Texan, says, to anyone that thinks that Vrabel wants to get fired, they need to realize that Vrabel doesn't fire an assistant coach if he wants to get fired or traded. I'm sure alluding to the Greg Bedard report 2 weeks ago that came out on Thanksgiving weekend that Mike Vrabel's trying to, get out of Tennessee. What did he say? Force his way out of Tennessee. It's an interesting thought.
Yeah, I would say, him doing that would lead me to believe that if I believed in the Bedard story, which I don't, but if I did, then him firing the special teams coach or relieving the special teams coach of his duties would lend me to believe that, okay, if indeed I was on board with Bedard's article, then hey, well, it seems like he wants to stay, because anybody that wants to, if he didn't want to stay, he'd have just kept the coach and forced the Titans to make their move in regards to like they did with Malarkey. Either you change some things within your coaching staff or we're going to have to go another way. Well, they knew Malarkey wasn't going to do that. Well, if I was to believe the story, then Mike wouldn't have did what he did in relieving Aukerman of his special team duty. So now we can put all of that to rest, like all of that. I don't think no coach, at least no coach that I have known of in the NFL, that has deliberately tried to lose games to get out of their contract. I don't think coaches operate in that fashion, and if they do, they don't need to be a coach on nobody's team.
Yeah. That's kind of how I feel about it.
We even saw the thing in Miami. What happened in Miami when they asked
Brian Flores.
Yeah, Flores to tank. He was like, no, I'm not doing that.
Taking your money to lose football games.
That's how
Absolutely not.
coaches think. So I was never on board with it, but this even lends more to the Vrabel wants to keep his job.
And I like how the team played for him. Like sometimes you see a coach and his team kind of checks out, and that did not look like a team that checked out at all yesterday.
Wes in Clarksville, Texan, says, I doubt it was Vrabel's decision to get rid of him. If it was up to Vrabel, Todd Downing would still be here.
Nah.
No.
Todd Downing, the writing was on the wall with Todd Downing when they brought in Tim Kelly.
100%. And let's not forget, Mike Vrabel wants to win football games. I think that's kind of gotten lost in the shuffle here of being 4-8 and going on the 7-game losing streak and the Bedard report and all of this stuff that's been thrown out there about Mike Vrabel. Whether he wants to go to New England or not, I don't know if he does or he doesn't. He wants to win football games, and with Todd Downing, you're not winning football games.
No, you're not. So, there you go.
Dustin in Hopkinsville, Texan, says, I've been on the Henry train. I have his jersey, and I called it saying he needs the ball 20 times plus. It's time for Spears to carry the torch. It can't be half and half. Let the young guy go. After the the first 12 plays, we didn't have a first down. Henry went into the blue tent and Spears took over. It was like a light switch was turned on. Offense started flowing. It happens with the Titans so often. An injury forced them to the rookie, and it shows them they deserve to play. Spears is going to be great for us. He and Levis should complement one another nicely in the future. This has nothing, what I'm about to say has nothing to do with Tajay Spears, because I thought Tajay Spears was impressive, the way he stepped up when Derrick Henry was in the injury tent. Did you not watch the first half? Derrick Henry ran for over 100 yards in the first half and 2 touchdowns? What do you mean the offense started to click after Derrick Henry went on the sidelines? What do you mean?
Well, what I think he's saying, the texter is saying, is that the first half was the half that Derrick got majority of his yardage, and then the second half, whether Indianapolis made some adjustments on defense or whatever, it wasn't the same in the second half. And listen, if you have any respect for what you do, then you're going to try to make some changes at halftime. So what they were doing in the first half, they're not capable of doing it in the second half. So they did bottle up the run in the second half on Derrick Henry. But I think from this standpoint, and I said this before, Derrick Henry is a great runner of the football. Tajay Spears gets to those holes a little bit quicker. It may be, and I'm not saying that it may be a little bit easier for the offensive line to sort of block for him, because why? They can't hold blocks for very long. So Tajay has the ability to get in and out of those holes very quickly. You saw the one play where he got bottled up, then he hit the sideline, and he was gone like a missile. Those are the things that he can do for your offense. He's not going to do it every time. Hell, Barry Sanders didn't do it every time, and we know how great Barry was. But he's going to do it, I believe, enough to where is now your offense has quickness and speed, not just power and speed. You have quickness. Now I can get to those holes a lot faster. Again, just give him an opportunity to run the football a little bit more. I'm not saying that Derrick Henry goes from 25 carries to 10 carries. No. 25 to maybe 20. It wouldn't be exactly those numbers, but I'm saying 25 to 20, and allow Tajay to start, because we're getting to the end of the season. We need to see if these young guys can really play. He needs to be one of those guys that we need to find out. Can you carry the load? Just like Josh Wiley made some good catches. He needs to start playing more. Chig redeemed himself. Finally, thank goodness. 2 good games in a row for Chigakonkwo. Thank God.
He did have one drop yesterday.
I don't count. That was like, if you catch it, you're getting tackled there. So it was a loss of yards. So that was a good drop in a sense. But they need to start seeing these young guys if they can play or not moving forward.
And one thing that I would like to reiterate is you don't have to be Team Derrick or Team Tajay. You can...
Team Titans.
That having both of them supplements this run game. That you need both of them. That it doesn't have to be, all right, Derrick Henry, sayonara, because we've got a new sheriff in town. No. You can have both of them.
You can run both of them.
You can run both of them. One thing that I really liked from Spears yesterday, showed awareness, just a good heads-up play. The Will Levis, I think they called it a fumble. It looked like an incomplete pass to me.
It was a fumble.
But it got tipped, or his arm got hit, and Tajay Spears went up and knocked the ball down so it wouldn't be intercepted. I thought that was a good heads up play by Tajay Spears, and that could have gotten ugly had the Colts gotten that ball. Another texter texts in and says, one thing, there's a bunch of texts on this. We addressed it earlier. I think that we need to address it again. Matthew in Nashville texts in, says, did they say on the broadcast why on the second blocked punt, why the Colts player wasn't penalized or ejected for that hit to Stonehouse's leg?
Because, people, if you make contact with the football, the slightest contact with the football is then not considered a roughing the kicker because you made contact with the football. If you did not make contact with the football and hit the punter, now it's roughing the punter because you did not make contact with the ball. On both of those, they made contact with the football. So that negates the roughing the penalty on the kicker. So that's a simple way to explain it.
It's not something that you see a ton.
Yeah.
But just because Ryan Stonehouse got hurt, unfortunately, that does not elicit a penalty. Same thing with roughing the passer and a sack. If you sack a quarterback and the quarterback gets hurt, that's unfortunate, but that doesn't make it a penalty just because the quarterback got hurt. Same thing with the punter. Just because the punter got hurt doesn't make it a roughing the punter penalty. A Florida Titan Texan and says, how do we know that Amy Adams-Strunk didn't reach out to Rand Carthon concerning the need for a change at special teams, and Rand Carthon spoke to Vrabel?
We don't know.
We don't know that.
We don't.
We don't know that. That may have happened. It might not have happened. That's why I asked TD the question, have you heard anything about maybe what went on behind the scenes? And Mike Vrabel said, when TD asked him about, had this been building? He said, it was time. It was time to move on. Jonathan in East Nashville, Texas says, I hope Vrabel making this change quiets all of the fans who believe he's leaving for New England. Because why would a head coach fire a coach if he was leaving? He might still leave for New England. But also, another thing to remember here, Mike Vrabel leaving for New England, Mike Vrabel cannot just pack up his bags and leave for New England.
No.
He's under contract here. So if he wants to leave for New England, he can have that conversation with Amy Adams-Strunk and say, look, I don't want to be here anymore. If New England offers you picks, take it. I want to go. But it's not like Mike Vrabel can just say one day, hey, you know what? I'm out. I'm leaving. I'm going to New England. It doesn't work like that. All right, let's get back into your phones on this coming up next, plus a little bit of a potpourri of what we saw yesterday, some of our takeaways yesterday, what we made of Will Levis, Tajay Spears stepping up without Derrick Henry, what this team looks like without Jeffrey Simmons against Miami. We'll get into that in your phones as well. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Tomorrow it's your chance to participate in Preds Pick to Click, and if you correctly guess a Predators player that scores a goal in the Preds game tomorrow night, then you will win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Preds home game. Participate with Robbie and Rex Road tomorrow morning at 8:45 a.m. Pick to Click, brought to you by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. List your home with TJ to get your home seen, heard, and sold.
Hey, let's tell you once again about our friends over at F&M Bank. I actually had a really good take it to the bank this weekend, and so I am pumped up about that. That is something that we do every week on this show. We have all kinds of fun Fridays at 1:45. But F&M Bank, you hear me talking about these guys a lot, and they have a lot of ways that they help you and your family. I want to talk to the business owners out there. You know, if you own your own business, it's like having a member of your family. You've got to have the success with time, money, attention. You need the right tools for success. And that's where F&M Bank will treat your business like family. No matter what your business goals are, you're going to reach them easier when you have a good banking relationship that supports you. So bank your business at F&M Bank. They can help you. Decisions made locally from a bank where your business means more. Check out one of their 20 convenient locations and go from there. Midtown Nashville, downtown Franklin, Hopkinsville, Kentucky, Hendersonville, White Bluff, Greenbrier. Just go to myfmbank.com and find the nearest one to you. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Welcome.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Big news of the day, Mike Vrabel announced at his press conference that special teams coordinator Craig Aukerman has been relieved of his duties. So we'll get back into your phones on that. 615-737-1025 is the number if you have a thought. So unless we have some thoughts,
just go to the phones.
Let's get to the phones. Cedric is on the line with a question on the Titans. What's up, Cedric?
What's happening? Hey, Mace, talk to me, man. If Vrabel was not named Mike Vrabel, would he still be the coach of this team? Here's my thing, man. He is the worst coach that we have in the division. It's undisputable. He's 0-3 against Peterson. He's 0-2 against Shane Steichen, and we know he ain't beating Ryans. So what does Amy do? I feel like we have a popularity contest over here with the Titans head coach and Amy not wanting to fire this dude and go get somebody who can actually coach this team. We continue to find ways to lose every week, man. And I want to hear from an ex-player on this, bro. I'm out, Holla.
Thank you for the call.
Thanks, Cedric.
Well, this year, yeah, they do have the worst coach / team in the national in their division. And I'm not saying that to say Mike Vrabel is a bad coach. I'm saying the way the records are situated, they have the worst team and the worst coach in the National Football League because the record you are what your record says you are.
Right.
And right now they're the worst team in the AFC South and one of the worst teams in the National Football League. If his name wasn't Mike Vrabel and he probably didn't have skins on the wall, yeah, I think he would have been fired considering what happened last year and what is happening this year.
So you think that if Mike Vrabel was anyone else, he'd be gone by now?
I do truly believe. But because he's so revered and loved outside of sort of Nashville, like people are just other teams, they make it seem like if he's fired, somebody else is going to get him. Like Mike's a great coach. You are happy to have him. Because he's trending in the positive in a positive light outside of Nashville, I think that does have something to do with it. Again, I think Mike's a good coach, but I think some people look at him as this great coach, and I don't think he's reached that level yet. When you haven't been to a Super Bowl, when you've only, won since the AFC Championship game, you haven't won a playoff game since then. You can't be put in the breath of greatness, okay? You are a really good coach. He is. And if I'm the Titans, I'm not firing him by no means, especially not at the end of the season. I'm going to give him an opportunity to build this thing and see what happens next season. And if he doesn't get it corrected next season, then yeah, we're going to have to move on because, listen, we've seen great coaches get fired. Dan Reeves, Bill Parcells, all these great coaches. Bill Belichick is probably about to get fired.
They want him out of there.
Great coaches or even really good coaches sometimes get fired. Andy Reid got let go by the Philadelphia Eagles. It just happens. It's not that he's a bad coach, but maybe, just maybe, the message has gotten sort of stale. I don't think it's there yet, but I think once it gets there, to me, these last, 6 games, it's going to tell a lot. Because what I saw on that sideline after the game was just, wow, like exhaustion. They was just tired. Like, man, we did all of this.
You think that was a good thing, though? I thought that was overall a good thing. I loved how they competed because I agree with you. We're still going into the phase of the rebuild, the reshaping. And it's going to be important that they keep that competitive edge and buy-in because they're going through some tough times here. Like you said, there's a lot of coaches that don't go through and make it out the other side of a team that's consistently won for a while, then's got to reshape the roster, which they do, and they're low on talent. Does the coach survive that? He doesn't always do it.
I look at that, and the reason why I brought that up because it's a small thing to a bunch of people, and they may not even saw it, but what it means to a player. This is where Vrabel has to come in and show that I have the coaching ability to make sure this doesn't last, because that can be a lingering effect in the next game. Like, we don't have anything to play for. We just played our ass off, and because of 2 block punts, we end up losing the game. What more can we do to win football games around here? Now, if it goes into the Miami game where you see, lackluster play, guys not quite hustling, which I don't expect it to be, but if you see it, then that's when you need to worry. And that's where I will pinpoint what I saw on the sideline after the game. It wasn't bad, but to me it was, damn, we gave it all we had, and we still walked out of here with a loss.
And that's why.
And now you got to do this without Jeffrey Simmons for the next couple of weeks at least. And that's going to be a challenge, right? You just lost your leader there. How does the defense – as much as we criticize Christian Fulton, it looks like he's had the hamstring come up. So you guys are going to continue to get hurt. They are already operating on a pretty thin roster. And if you lose a few more guys, and like Derek has mentioned, towards the end of the season, sometimes you get to that point where a guy's not going to – he may not be able to play or fight through the injury, or maybe the team decides it's not worth you trying to play in the situation the team is in. Let's just hold off. So there's things that kind of close in and makes it tough for a team in this situation to have success. And so this really tests your mettle as a head coach.
I also don't think it's fair to say that because the Titans are the worst team in the division, that Mike Vrabel's the worst coach in the division. D'Amico Ryans has been a head coach for less than a full season. I think he's going to be a great coach. I like D'Amico Ryans. I thought that was a great hire by Houston. But how can I justify saying that he is a better coach than Mike Vrabel when he's coached 12 games of his NFL career?
Well, you just look at what he's been able to do with that team. And that was a team that was horrible last year.
Totally.
Many didn't expect anything from them this year. And now they more than likely will have the rookie of the year on offense, possibly the rookie of the year on defense, an NFL MVP and a rookie at quarterback. He may just as well win the MVP as well. So he's done a hell of a job with this
absolutely.
team. And I'm just taking it on. When I say Vrabel has fallen to the worst coach, I'm just basing it upon this season. This season,
this
his
is the worst team in the division.
This team, this season, he and his team are the worst. So it's all a team thing. So you're the worst coaches and you're the worst team in your division based upon your record. Do I truly believe that Mike is the worst coach? No. But your record, you are what your record is. And that goes on everybody, not just the players. That goes on the coaches as well.
Another texter texts in, says, keep in mind that special teams is the direct reason why the Titans are no longer in playoff consideration. That's the smoking gun. Special teams is the reason why you lost yesterday. Mm-hmm. Special teams has hurt you a lot over this past season. Special teams has hurt you a good bit over the last few years. Mm-hmm. That's not the reason, the only reason. That's not the sole reason why you are no longer in playoff contention. There are a lot of reasons why you, like Ryan Tannehill is the reason why you lost to the New Orleans Saints when he threw 3 interceptions. I can't put that on special teams. That's one of the reasons why you're no longer in playoff contention. There's several reasons why the Titans have lost games this season. Now, special teams is the reason why you lost yesterday, and special teams hasn't helped you a lot over this past season. Special teams is the reason why you lost yesterday, and yesterday essentially takes you out of playoff contention, but that's not the only reason why, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, but... You know, it's unfortunate that they played their asses off offensively and defensively.
It sucks.
And the special teams unit let them down. That's basically what it is.
100% let them down. News of the day, Craig Aukerman has been relieved of his special teams duties. I know someone who's very happy about it, and he is coming up next.
Be love. And love on your people. Congratulations to the Pearl Cone Firebirds for winning the Class 4A championship.
And congratulations to TD on his new grandbaby.
Yeah, congratulations to Papa TD as well. So be love and love on your people. Peace.